When someone asks you to buy a gun for them, don't. This is not a victimless crime. These guns are often used in criminal activities and could result in the death of someone you love. The straw purchaser must bear the responsibility of the violent crimes committed with the guns that are allowed to enter this black market. As a penalty for that act, individuals convicted of purchasing a firearm from someone who is prohibited could face up to 15 years in prison and a $250,000 fine. In North Carolina, in 2023, trace reports showed that we recovered and traced over 27,000 firearms across the state. More than half of those were tied to illegal gun possession. It is our mission at ATF to prevent violent crime, and we're fortunate to have so many partners in this effort, like Hyatt Guns. The FFLs are the first line of defense when it comes to stopping straw purchasers. They can help support the signs of potential customers who may be attempting a straw purchase. Shining a spotlight on straw purchasing and preventing the violent crimes that are associated with these illegally trafficked firearms is what makes Charlotte a safer place for everyone who lives and works here. I would now like to turn it over to our U.S. Attorney, Russ Ferguson.
Well, thank you, Special Agent Jones. I appreciate it. And thank you all for covering this, because as you can see, we're united on this. Not just law enforcement at the federal and the local level, but the gun shops too. And we're united with a simple message. If you buy a gun for someone else, you're breaking the law. That is a federal crime, and we prosecute it every day. So here's how it works. You walk into a gun shop like this one, or a sports store, or any federally licensed firearms dealer, and you fill out the paperwork to buy a gun. And when you fill out that paperwork and you write down that you're buying a gun, but you're actually buying it for someone else, that's a straw purchase, and that's a federal crime. That can be life-changing, and it's life-changing for everyone, because the reason someone is having you buy a gun for them is because they either are prohibited from owning a gun or possessing a gun, or they're going to use that gun for an illicit purpose and they don't want it traced back to them. So that means that gun is probably going to be used in a shooting, a carjacking, a robbery, God forbid, a murder. But it's also life-changing for the person who makes that purchase. Just recently, my office charged a former Gastonia police officer with straw purchasing a gun, and she faces 15 years in prison, or up to 15 years in prison for that crime. So I share that with a reason. This is not a prosecution that ends with a slap on the wrist. It's not like you're coming into a store and making a small white lie on a form and you're going to end up with probation. We send people to federal prison for doing this. And federal prison is just the start. After that, you have a federal conviction on your record. That means you might not be able to volunteer at your kid's school. You won't be able to own a gun. You may have trouble getting a job. The consequences are serious for doing this. So when you go into a gun shop and you go to buy a gun, know that every answer on the form matters. If you're legitimately buying a gun, no issue. But if you're buying a gun for someone else, you're lying, the paper trail will lead to you, and that is a federal crime. The ATF has done a great job, CMPD has done a great job at investigating those cases. We find the folks doing it, and we aggressively prosecute them. And once we do, we hear every excuse in the book. Well, I was just doing a favor for my friend. They needed it for protection. I didn't think it was a big deal. I didn't know it was illegal. We hear it all. None of those excuses work. None of them hold up in court. You will be prosecuted for buying a gun for someone else. When someone asks you to do that, I want you to think about what they're asking you to do. If they're saying, I'll pay you to go buy a gun for me, ask yourself, what is the price of your freedom? If they say, I'm your friend, I'm your brother, I'm your uncle, do it for me, we have this relationship, ask yourself, do they want me to go to jail? Here in the Western District of North Carolina, we have seen firsthand how straw purchases hurt people. We have seen these guns used in crimes time and time again, and that's why we're united with the gun shops, with the federal law enforcement, with local law enforcement, to attack these straw purchasers who are putting guns into the hands of people who cannot otherwise have a gun. We're cutting off the supply chain, so I'll leave you with this. The person you buy a gun for today could be the reason you lose your freedom tomorrow. Don't lie for the other guy. I'm now going to turn it over to CMPD, a great partner, on Captain Fishback.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Stephen Fishback. I currently serve as your captain over the Special Operations Division with the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department. Thank you to our great partners with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms and Explosives, the U.S. Attorney's Office, the National Shooting Sports Foundation, as well as the Hyatt Gun Shop, for hosting and partnering on this important effort. we have a shared mission: keeping firearms out of the hands of those who cannot legally possess them. Illegal firearms often end up being those guns used in homicides, robberies, shooting in occupied dwellings that are taking place and plaguing our city. Every illegal firearm recovered by our officers represents a tragedy, or tragedies, plural, that we were able to prevent. But it also represents a crime that never should have happened in the first place. In the first half of 2025, those first 2 quarters, your Charlotte-Mecklenburg police officers seized 2,000 firearms. Let me say that again. In the first half of 2025, your Charlotte-Mecklenburg police officers out there doing proactive work, productive investigations, seized 2,000 firearms off of our streets. Many of those firearms used in violent crimes across our city. So straw purchasing is not a victimless crime. I can tell you it directly contributes to the violent crime taking place in this city and this community. Doing a favor, what you perceive to be a favor for someone like this, can be a felony where you, the purchaser, ends up paying the price. Those firearms don't just disappear. They don't go to sit in somebody's gun safe, somebody's closet. I can tell you, those are the firearms that we end up seizing out there. Those are the firearms we see being used in violent crime. The message is simple. If you buy a firearm for someone who cannot legally own one, you're not helping them. You are committing a federal crime, and you could go to prison for it. We're asking the community, firearm retailers, and responsible firearm owners to remain alert and report suspicious activity and suspicious purchases. Share this message with family and friends. If someone you know asks you to buy a firearm for them, don't do it. Contact law enforcement. Provide us with that information. Public safety is a team effort. The police department cannot do it alone. We rely on the community. We rely on our friends and our partners in the media. We all have a role to play in preventing gun violence. Together, we can keep our neighborhoods safe and reduce the harm caused by illegal firearms. Thank you for your support. Thank you to our media partners in helping to get the message out there, for helping spread the message. Don't lie for the other guy. And I can tell you the people who spoke before me are much more intelligent than I am. They took most of my talking points. But what I can tell you is, I've been with the CMPD for 23 years. You know I live in this community. Over and over again, I have community members ask me, where do these juveniles get the guns? Where do these felons get the guns that are contributing to this violent crime? Straw purchasing is one of those ways that those guns are making their way out there on the street for criminals to do what they do. So thank you again for the support, and we'll open it up for questions at this time.
I don't know if it's for the ATF or the U.S. Attorney's Office, but what, like 1 out of 10, 1 out of 20, 1 out of 50 are straw purchases? Do you guys have like any data on that, like on how prevalent it is, not just Charlotte, but maybe North Carolina or the country?
Thank you for that question, but no, I couldn't answer that. We don't keep those type of statistics. Just that we know straw purchasing is putting guns in the hands of people that should not possess firearms.
When you seize a gun, how do you know whether it was a straw purchase or a stolen firearm?
When we seize a gun, so we do this process where we will trace a gun, a crime gun that is seized in a crime. That will get us to the first person that purchased this firearm. And then it's just good old-fashioned police work to figure out how that gun got from a legal purchaser into the hands of a criminal.
Who is your typical offender? Is it a one-off, or is it someone who knows what they're doing when they line the form?
So you're specifically talking about a straw purchaser?
Yeah.
I mean, it's all kinds. Just like we were saying, it could be a sister, it could be a girlfriend, it could be a brother, it could be a neighbor. So whomever this person who does not want their name on the form can recruit to do this, they will recruit.
I could just add to that. If I could just add to that, the reason why we have this program, this cooperative program, is because there are a lot of people that just don't know that that is a crime. They don't understand the consequences. They don't understand it's a federal crime to do this. So this awareness program we've done all over the country now for the last 25 years is really a strong public awareness to remind people, you know, you buy a gun for someone who can't, you buy yourself 15 years in prison. That's a message that we hope will resonate, and we believe it has resonated. So that's the real purpose behind this. The stats and the figures, you know, there's so many guns being run through background checks, it's hard to say what exactly the numbers are. But we know by getting out there, by putting up these billboards, by having these events, by having you folks cover this, it does prevent this because it puts information in the heads of some people that wouldn't ordinarily know.
One thing is a public campaign and education for people who may not know, but is there a more tangible solution, because it's still happening, that should be put in place or should be looked at?
For my part, making sure that this awareness is out there, and then working with our partners at ATF and the U.S. Attorney's Office to make sure these crimes are prosecuted, that sends a message, because the criminal network, that will get through their ranks as well. Hey, this is maybe not a good idea, or maybe we shouldn't be doing this because there's real teeth to this law. So that to me is, and I don't want to speak for my friends at the U.S. Attorney's Office, but that to me would be certainly something we would look forward to, make sure people get prosecuted, because this is a serious crime.
Have there been cases, I guess in your case, where members, retailers have just realized what a buyer is doing and said, wait, don't buy this for someone else? They caught it like in the actual sale of a gun?
Happens every day. We hear from our members every day that because of the education program that goes with ATF and what NSF has been doing, they have this instinctual understanding. They can spot the red flags. I mean, there have been people that have been so brazen as to walk in with a cell phone and say, that one? That's a huge red flag. Now people are maybe more sophisticated than that, but really these crimes are being prevented every single day thanks to this program, which is why we keep investing in it, and which is why Congress also invested in this program to make sure that the message is out there, it's loud and clear and unequivocal.
Russ, I have a question for you.
Yeah, of course.
We talked about this exact issue before.
Yeah.
How prevalent is it in your office? Are you seeing these cases? I know you said you're prosecuting them every day, but how often are they actually being charged and brought up to your office?
We're constantly charging this crime, and it's not always a standalone crime. Sometimes there's another crime with it, but we're constantly charging this crime. If you're using a straw purchaser to purchase a gun, there's a reason. And so when we're charging felon with a handgun, we're looking at why does that felon have that handgun? Where did they get it? And working with the ATF to find that straw purchaser. When we're seeing violent crime and gang violence on the streets, we're taking the guns. Now, as you and I have talked about, sometimes they're ghost guns or other things, but often they're straw purchaser guns. So it's a constant thing we're seeing in the violent crime we're investigating in our office.
Captain Fishback, in terms of, can you just walk us through the process? Because you said you talked like seized 2,000 guns. You do the background, you find out that the gun's being held illegally by someone or someone who shouldn't have that. Walk us through the process from CMPD. Do you guys contact ATF? Do you go straight to the U.S. Attorney's Office? Can you just walk us through that process?
Sure, great question. The process for us, boots on the ground, you seize a firearm. When we turn that firearm in, we automatically do a trace form on it to do the background on that gun, and we collaborate with the ATF on that. And so that will tell us who all was in that history of firearm purchases regarding that gun. From there, we have a task force in place as well as a regular working relationship with the ATF. So if we find something awry with that firearm, we are in collaboration right off the bat with them, information sharing, make sure that case is handled appropriately with the resources of the federal government.
Can you detail just really the challenges and hurdles when you guys run into crime incidents, homicide, shootings, and any magnitude that really do have these straw purchases involved as well?
Sure. I mean, look, if these firearms weren't out there illegally, we wouldn't have some of these problems. That's a huge frustration for us. And that also brings up another point. You know, we're not here to address responsible, legal firearm owners. Oftentimes, those are some of our stronger stakeholders and partners out there. What we address are those illegally possessed firearms that are out there causing the problems that we see in our city.
Captain, you had mentioned 2,000 so far in 2025. Do you know how many of those came back as straw purchases?
That's data I don't have on hand, but we can definitely follow up with you, Hunter, following the press conference.
One or two more? Great question so far. One or two more before we wrap up? Great. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Really appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. It's wonderful to meet you. Thank you so much. Appreciate what you did.
You've done this before, huh?
Yeah.
Your team has been, these folks who work with ATF have been great. They've been great to work with.
Thank you for organizing.
Thank you.
Great to
Really
meet you.
appreciate you being here.
Yeah, once I get settled, next week I go to special
We are working
investigations.
hard, and we're serious about it.
Okay, yeah.
Do you have a card?
I do not have a card. Do you have one? Because I could email you.
Great.
Yes.
No problem. It's exactly like that. Just do the right thing.
Team has to go here.
Is anybody going live? Nobody's screening.
Okay, all right. We're gonna take a photo.
Oh, great. Your advanced equipment up there. And
That's all I need.
Good.
Where do you want us?